So, episode 1 of On the Mat with myself
and Taylor McCann. Today's guest, so first episode we were thinking, who's a guy that's been in the grappling game for a little bit, is really exciting. And we've come up with a guy from MMA and BJJ, Fraser Clarke. Introduce yourself, Fraser.
Hi, my name's Fraser. Obviously these guys know me, but yeah, I train at Marcus Nardini's, blue belt currently, competing as purple. Been grappling for about 5 years now, on and off. That's about it for me. I mean, I'm 23 in May, so I'm still young, still got a lot of time to go.
Young. Plenty of time, man. Plenty of time. No, it's good to. You were one of the first guys. We created a little bit of a list. Who would we want in the show? We had a name at first, but after some thoughts, I was like, who's a guy that's really knowledgeable on the sport? No, knowledgeable on the sport, young guy. You know, I think we could get a lot of good kind of bits from you as far as info and kind of your life. Obviously 5 years in grappling's a long time. For anyone that doesn't know, it's quite a long time to be in the grappling scene. But no, based on that 5 years, right? Obviously you have to start somewhere. Okay. Mm-hmm. So in saying that, how was the start for you? If you could break that down for us. I'm personally interested myself. Never asked that question. You know, so that'll be a first for me.
I suppose. I mean, I started with MMA, so that was always the kind of initial goal for me. But when I started with MMA, I always preferred jiu-jitsu. You know, always preferred like no-gi, always preferred grappling, just because it was like an easier, safer, less brain damage way to fight. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And like always just kind of gravitated towards like the old UFC matches with like Hoist Gracie and whatnot. So started MMA doing that, but always like enjoyed the grappling. You know, and I would always do more grappling than the rest of the kind of MMA bits. You know,
I've asked this people a lot. What was the reason behind starting MMA?
You know, my mate was like, oh, you should start MMA, right? And I was like, a bit of a pacifist, but you know.
Oh, I've seen those videos, man. Yeah. Pacifist reacts to UFC.
I was just a bit of a wimp, to be honest, right?
Okay.
And he goes, and I was like, mate, I don't want to start. I don't want to get head kicked. I don't want to get punched, elbowed. He's like, no, mate. The best fighting style. See, if you look at all the guys that win, they all grapple. And I was like, bullshit. So he goes, go and watch the first UFCs and come back to me. So I watched the first UFCs. I went, fucking hell, fair enough.
Yeah.
And I went back to him and I went, okay, I see what you're saying. Still bullshit. And he goes, okay, fine, come to the gym with me and you can try and beat me up as much as you want.
That's when you find out, innit?
Exactly. And this guy rinsed me repeatedly for like the whole of a summer, basically.
Really? Damn.
And like I didn't really have much interest in learning it until, you know, I really started thinking. You know, I got rinsed quite a few times. Really started thinking about it, and I thought, you know what, I can do this, and I don't need to be like some absolutely violent mental guy. Mm-hmm. But obviously, the more I started it, I was very passive, right? Yeah. I was very like not engaging, not diving into it.
Yeah.
And my coach at the time was basically told me to stop being a pussy.
All right.
You know,
so obviously, without saying who it is, can I just think about that? You mentioned the gym, right? What gym is that? Because you've got quite a good journey as far as your progression through kind of leveling up your game through different gyms. That's one thing I've definitely noticed. You're not shy of cross training, which is really good to see. Obviously having our coach Marcos is perfect because he's more than happy for us to do that, you know. But that gym, what gym was that we were starting in?
That was Glasgow Fitness Gym.
Glasgow Fitness Gym, right? Okay.
Yeah, so it's more of a Muay Thai gym, but they had MMA classes on.
Ah, right.
And like it was a good wee gym, you know. Like it was close to me, you know. It was like a small group of guys, so like it was good for beginners because you learn a lot.
Right.
But like, yeah, after doing it for a bit and being a bit too passive, I kind of thought to myself, I was like, okay, if I want to be good at this, I kind of have to learn how to be aggressive and learn how to use violence, but in a non-violent,
in a controlled way.
Yeah. Not be a pure nutter, you know what I mean?
I know, and I find that sometimes like there's guys that can definitely have like controlled violence, like you say, But you get the guys with just a screwless, you know. And genuinely, you do, but there's guys that love to fight, and it's not even and if they weren't getting paid tens, hundreds, you know, thousands, millions, they would still fight. You know, like guys, exactly. Guys like Mike Tyson obviously started off like scrap.
Taylor McCann.
like Mike Tyson obviously started scrapping out in the street. Like there's people that just love fighting, and obviously, like you're saying, that wasn't really you.
No.
Did you come across, and saying that, did you come across any guys that were like kind of made you almost kind of like you say, fuck this? Some of these guys are just out to hurt people. No, it's true. It's a genuine question. But I feel like every gym has that. There's always one guy that maybe spars too hard because he can't maybe win an actual fight, or you know, he's used to getting battered all the time. So he's like, you know what? Let me pick on the white belts, or let me pick on the guys on the beginners course. Like, did you ever come across guys like that?
Not a lot, to be honest. There was definitely guys that were way better than me who like would fuck me up quite regularly, and it didn't really put me off it. It just made me super competitive. I've always been mega competitive, and I suppose that just made it even worse. You know, especially if it was some dude, you know, who was like older than me, maybe like, you know, only trained like twice a week, but he had a fucking nice big purple belt on. He had a nice big blue belt on at the, you know, at the time blue belts were fucking killers. You know what I mean? I couldn't like, I didn't know what to do when I was rolling the blue belt. So like that, I was like, this dude, you know, I was like, I'm like 18 years old. Like, this dude's like in his 40s and he can fucking kill me. Like, I can't be having this. You know what I mean? So I just got mega competitive and mega obsessed about it. You know, very quickly. And like in terms of like, if I ever got turned away by or turned off of it by people like trying to hurt me. Not really. Like, always just made me more competitive. Always.
I think a lot of people struggle with that when they join in it when the first time. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? See when I started, I was like, I'm a strong, wee, stocky guy. Like, I'm going to be all right. And you just go and you're like, what the fuck, man? You just wonder what's happening.
I guess for me, like I didn't really have that as much. Obviously, like I started off as a child. Like as a child, like a 7-year-old, you're just messing about, you know what I mean? The kind of stuff you do with your mates in school, like throw each other down hills and like jumping each other, pile on each other. So I never really had that kind of oh shit moment, you know. But like I remember walking into Marcos's and like I was like, oh no, and I saw Jack Brown. He waved at me and I was like, oh, a wee bit of comfort. And then I get put with a guy. Like for my first roll, Big Mark McQueen was like, go with this guy for your first roll. I went with him, and I swear 2 seconds in, I get kicked right in the dick. Pulled guard on me. I didn't know what to do, obviously. I'm like, right, I'm a wrestler. You know, what is a wrestler going to do against a guy that actually knows what he's doing? And I took a step forward, man, and he put a hook in and kicked me right in the dick. And for that moment, like you say, a wee bit of aggression turned on, a bit of competitiveness to be like, you know, this isn't just... Because I went in with like I'll be honest, obviously seeing like jiu-jitsu, you can't slam, you can't do certain things and all that. I was like, oh, come on. I was like, wrestlers are doing this all the time. And like, obviously I spent some time out, so I was like, maybe it'll be a good kind of change of pace. Seeing Big Gav McQueen and Mark McQueen at the Trice Lions wrestling and just seeing them like, oh, what are these jiu-jitsu guys doing here, blah, blah, blah. Even big guys like them, I was like, oh, what are these guys doing here and all that. And then I went to jiu-jitsu and I was like, yeah, this is... you know, much better than I thought it was going to be, much more aggressive. And it completely changed my perspective on it, you know? Like, and it's fun because it's, as far as like wrestling goes, there's a reason the rounds are a bit longer. You know, you can actually flow. I feel like wrestling, you can flow, but I just don't feel like it works as well. Whereas I feel like jiu-jitsu, there's a nice change of pace. And like you were saying about like people walking in, like you get guys that will throw on submissions. Like Arujo loves a flying submission. I can imagine as a beginner walking in and seeing him throw a flying submission on you, will shit yourself. Like,
see, just thinking about it, see, like with the aggression thing, I think it kind of like when you know who you're training with, it's almost like you can kind of trust people if they know that you're aggressive, and then you can kind of expect the same for them. And that kind of leads me into what I was going to ask Fraser at one point, which is probably a good point now. Is you roll slow as fuck, man. Like you roll so slow, but you still just do what you want. And I don't like how what's in your mind when you're rolling, basically.
So when I started jiu-jitsu, I kind of knew this from the start, and my coaches from the start all the way up until now have always told me, you gotta learn jiu-jitsu based on your body type, because I've got a very unique body type, you know, been fucking tall, lanky, all that jazz, right? And another thing about me is I've got zero speed. I've got no speed. I can't run fast.
Like a sloth almost.
Exactly, right?
Okay.
But when I was a kid, I used to do a lot of climbing, right? So I've got a really good squeeze, and I felt that.
So, mate, genuinely like a sloth then.
Yeah.
Slow with good climbing, man.
So, that was always the plan. You know, the plan was always build a game that had incorporated, you know, long limbs and all that jazz, slow the guy down. Because fundamentally, I want to play a game of jiu-jitsu. I don't want to play a game of who's the better athlete.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's valid, man.
Because I'm not the best athlete in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if I can take your athleticism away through controlling the pace, then I'll have a better chance of beating you. In terms of training in the gym, like at the end of the day, if I'm training in the gym, I'm trying to learn rather than go 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So it kind of suits that aspect as well, because you get to, you get to run through your techniques a bit slower, a bit smoother, without some absolute crazy pace that also it's too stressful. So you're going at 100 miles an hour, it's stressful, man. You know, it's too much to think about. You know, I need time to go over my decisions, go over my moves, you know, think about what my opponent's doing and all that stuff. And the faster the guy, the harder that is to do. So.
And do you do anything for cardio? Like if there ever is a time where you're not able to slow an opponent down, like and you kind of need to pick the pace up, do you ever do anything for cardio? If you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I go on the bike quite regularly. You know, I don't do like short intervals of cardio. I do like long cardio. You know, I'll jump the bike for like an hour, you know, hour and a half sometimes, and really kind of stretch out. And I'll do like small intervals within that.
A burst of speed. Yeah, right. So almost kind of how like a roll would be.
Yeah.
Because I find that definitely like the first, you know, minute is very, even if you've got good cardio, the first minute of a match, first minute of a round, I find for me anyway, I don't know about you, and obviously you can chime in, I feel like I'm blowing up my arse the first minute. But see in a 10-minute round, see minutes 6, 7, 8, for example, I feel alive. I feel like my techniques are snappier. Obviously joints are looser. I feel I can start pushing the pace, be a bit more aggressive. So I find it like with jiu-jitsu, it's like the long duration stuff definitely helps. But I find, like you said there, like you have to, sometimes it helps to be a bit more specific, because it is, sometimes you go into a match and the first 20 seconds is, for me anyway, I like to slow things down as well with wrestling. I'm not like I'm explosive, but I'm not a super like, let's get shit done on the feet type guy. I'm like, I'm confident, right? But I like to slow it down. Similar to how you like to slow it down on the ground, I like to slow it on the feet. So a lot of guys will be pushing the pace, and I'm like, obviously using my grips, my underhooks, my overhooks, my snap downs to slow it down. But I find like that first minute, man. Yeah. First minute, I'm like, no matter who it is, I could be up against a white belt, and let's say I'm feeling knackered that day and I pull guard, mate, and I get my guard pass within like 30 seconds. I'm like, have I got a shit guard or am I just tired? Yeah. But then you hit a sub from guard and you're like, all right, okay, now we're talking, now things are getting warmed up, we're feeling good. You find
on that topic of like the first minute sucks. The first match in a tournament sucks. Yeah. That's it for me. Aye. I gas so hard in the first match all the time. Like, see if I don't sub the guy in the first match, that'll be the worst match I'll do that day.
Do you think that's regardless of your warm up?
I've tried every warm up, man. I've tried, you know, not warming up. I've tried pure long warm ups. I've tried warming up on my own, warming up with other people. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. I just have this big adrenaline dump. But if I get through that first match, I'm fine. Honestly, like if I get past my first match, I could do, you know, 10 other matches and be chill.
I'm sure Nicky Rod's bringing out a fucking
warm-up video or something?
I think he's bringing out an instructional for like kind of leading up to comp and all that, and I don't know if it includes warm-up, so maybe that's what I know what I mean.
I mean, fundamentally, I think that whether to warm up or whether to not, it's such an athlete specific thing. I know guys that don't warm up at all and do amazing, and guys who do some like crazy warm-up and also do amazing. And everyone always asks, oh, what'd you do for a warm-up? What did, like, trying to get, I always say, dude, you gotta find what works for you and do it. You know what I mean? Because it like so many different things work for everybody in terms of like a warm up, in terms of like a pre-match ritual? Like, do you listen to music? Do you not listen to music? You always wear the one rash guard. You change your rash guard every time, you know, like stuff like that.
Superstitious stuff.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I find like you're saying, my first few comps, I didn't warm up. You know, the Northern Submission Series is the first time I've ever done a warm up, and I was that way. That I was like, this just feels so out of the norm, because obviously I was doing it with Robbie Pettigrew, and he's talking me through kind of, right, we'll go from this, work your stand up stuff, right, start working on wrestling up and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, I was like, I don't feel warm. My brain's not switched on. I was like, what's happening here? I was like, I'm never warming up. But for wrestling, for example, like the warm-ups in that were like constant. There were team warm-ups literally. Before the tournament even started, first half hour, everyone's running around the mats, they're drilling technique, and then 5-10 minutes before your match are warming up. So you're doing like double warm-ups. Whereas I look at jiu-jitsu and sometimes I'm like, I go to warm up and I get called on the mat, and I'm like, fucking. I was like, I'm meant to start in half an hour. You know, it's like, oh, you're scheduled in for 3:30, because I only do nogi. Or you're the same, and I think you're the same as well. And obviously, it's pushed in later in the day. So I'm like, that's cool. Like, I can chill, I can eat, and I can obviously, once I've made weight. And then you go to warm up at 3, and let's say you're meant to be on at 3:30, and then they're like, oh, can we have the 185s to the mat? And I'm like, what? We're already on. I was like, I've not even had 5 minutes to warm up here.
Yeah.
So and kind of saying that, then obviously you're fairly competitive in the past kind of few months. You've been doing a lot of golds, a lot of subs, a lot of scalps taken home. How have you been finding competing? I guess before 2023. Compared to how 2023 is going as far as competing, because it's only been a few months. We're only a few months in, but I feel that for those few months you've done a lot.
Yeah, I've done pretty well this year so far. It's been a bit of a test because I've had to juggle uni with it. So the plan was to take the first part of this year quite slow, and then really ramp it up after my uni finishes. So I suppose before 2023 competing, I mean, I always had a lot of uni stress, but I did it anyway, you know. This year is particularly stressful because of I'm doing a placement, you know, so I've got like an
longer
actual
hours and stuff.
Yeah, longer hours,
proper job.
Yeah, almost. Proper job responsibilities and whatnot. But yeah, it's going good so far. You know, I can't really complain. Obviously did the All-Stars.
That's it, mate. Rattle them all off, man. Tell Peter, honestly, like, that's the thing. This is more than just getting to know you. It's getting you out there.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's the thing. Like, if me and Adam can do anything from this, right, whether it's to 50 people, 100 people, whatever the case may be, if we can do anything from this, it's to get the guys from our gym, the local guys that we know, the kind of blue belts, the kind of guys that are near in purple, that are doing well in comps, that maybe aren't getting the exposure, maybe they're not too big on Instagram, they're not too big on these things, and they're not getting the exposure for your Northern Submission Series, your kind of Clash, any of these kind of, and obviously the bigger shows that hopefully one day they can get on. If there's anything we can do, is getting you out there. So rattle them off, man. Tell us about all your opponents, or the suffering they've had to go through. Because that's what I want to hear. Because I see it in the kind of the group chat from time to time. You know, some poor guy getting his head squeezed off, and I'm like, I really want to know. I really want to know what's going through your head during that time, and like wee things that you've had maybe after your matches, or you know, at each comp. If you can maybe give a wee kind of timeline of your comps.
Okay,
and stuff,
well,
you know?
I suppose we'll start at the start, right? So my first comp, okay. So it was a bit of an experience. So first comp was like August 2021, straight out of lockdown or back in training and all that. It was a time, right? You know, obviously I wasn't training very much. Back when, like, you know, you could train in England, you couldn't train in Scotland. So
oh really? All right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was going down to Northeast Jiu-Jitsu, training like you know, at TFT MMA and Northeast, and then coming back up, and then and not been able to train, and being like, what the fuck is this? But signed up in August, Grappling Industries Manchester. So I didn't realize that it was an open absolute, as in you could fight anybody.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have suffered from that. They see absolute, and they're like, I'll go for it, expecting white belts, blue belts,
exactly.
or whatever, expecting their level, and getting hit with some.
So,
what you're gonna say?
My first match was just some white belt. So I beat him by a Kimura, which was all right. It was not a great match. I kind of shat myself a little bit, but
right. Just kind of first match jitters.
Yeah, but I handled it. You know, like I was more experienced than the guy, so you know I think I handled it a bit better.
That's valid.
My second match was Ross Nichols.
what a match to get.
And I went, wow, who's this guy? Like, is he good? And my coach went, yeah, he's pretty good. And I went, what belt is he? And he went, he's a black belt. And I went, is he a good black belt? And he went, yeah.
It's a mad sport, isn't it? You can just jump for a white belt to that.
It's brilliant. And that was obviously after, was that after he was at, well, no, it definitely was after he was at ADCC, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah.
So he's already been,
I didn't know this guy.
Guy's been on the biggest stage in jiu-jitsu, and then poor wee Fraser, you know what I mean? Coming out of lockdown, hardly been able to train, having to travel bloody down south all the time to train, and he's getting hit with a full-time athlete, full-time, obviously, and black belt at that.
So I'm not going to lie, right? I lasted 4.5 minutes of a 5-minute match, got rear naked choked in the end.
That's impressive.
Mate, you can live with that. Come on.
Bear in mind, he probably was using me to warm up, you know?
Really?
And I lost and I went off and I went, you know what? I'm only a blue belt. I shouldn't have to beat him. 10 minutes later, Mark McQueen goes and beats him and I went, fuck. I went, shit, I don't even have an excuse now.
Bear in mind though, Mark McQueen at the time, you know, I think he's slightly shorter than you, but he's also, I think at the time he was about 120 kilo. He's
much better than me. I'm okay admitting that right now.
Oh no, yeah. Mark now, I think Mark now, and Mark now takes out pretty much everyone in Europe, man.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, there's no doubts of it. But I mean, you can give yourself a bit of slack, you know, Mark beating him. Do you know what I mean? And I think probably Ross felt the same way of like, obviously, because I know that there's chats of it that Mark beat him and was like, I'm just a blue belt, and he was really letting Ross Nichols know. He's letting Ross Nichols know that he get beat off a blue belt.
After that was my absolute experience done. I had my weight class. So first match in the weight class, I went, okay, I've sussed out what it's like to win, sussed out what it's like to lose. Time to, you know, employ a good strategy based on the knowledge that I've gained in the absolutes and build on that. So my first match, I went out, pulled guard, wrestled up, took the guy down, put him straight into mount, and then rear naked choked him. He kind of turned like half on his side and then just fucking wrapped his neck, didn't bother getting under the chin.
I was gonna say, was it one of those, you see the opportunity, you see gold, and you're like, fuck it, I don't care if the technique's wrong, I don't care if I'm ripping his jaw off, it's I'm throwing it on.
Like I wasn't even on his back, I was like on like a side mount, and I just grabbed it around the side. I didn't even have hooks in or nothing. But the guy tapped like the guy tapped pretty quickly, and that was my first match done.
Was there any struggle? No, you threw it on, and
I had it pretty locked in.
So see, now you've been competing for a while, do you still get nervous?
Yeah.
The same as it was at the start, or a wee bit better?
A bit better. Yeah, it depends who I've got on the day. You know, like if it's a good guy, I'll kind of shit myself a bit more.
Well,
go for it.
Also,
I'm going to go because this is kind of relevant, right? Sorry. So I was going to say, obviously I'm not going into it just yet, right? We've got Grapplefest tomorrow that you're attending, shall we say? So just kind of in relation to the nerves and stuff, do you prefer competing when there's multiple mats kicking about, or do you like it when there's just one mat and everybody's watching you?
Oh, right, okay. That's a good. I've never been asked that before.
Good guy, man.
Yeah. I suppose I prefer it when it's just one mat. I've done 2 SGIs, and that was pretty fun.
Yep.
2 SGI wins, mind. 2 SGI
wins. 2
wins.
SGI wins, 2 SGI finishes, mate.
Oh,
one twister.
See, promote him,
a twister.
One twister, yeah. First
one
SGI.
Twister, man.
One twister
Against the Carlson Gracie Hall guy. Just put that in there.
That's a story. That's a story for maybe later on. But yeah, I think I prefer doing a match with like on a show with just one mat, because it's all on you, you know. I feel like the noise isn't there as well. When you're at a tournament, there's a lot of screaming, a lot of freaking out. I feel like when there's like music on, there's like the lights are on, you know, it's a bit more like focused on you, and I actually prefer that. Don't know why, honestly. I feel like it's a bit more chaotic at a tournament when you got everyone running around and like people are screaming. I get a bit like lost in the kind of chaos of it all. But
it might play a part in as well, like what Taylor was saying about see when you're trying to warm up. No, it feels like the organisation is all over the place in it. Where there's hundreds of mats kicking about.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking mental. I'm not gonna lie. Tournaments are pretty chaotic.
No, I definitely can get in the way, man. It's like least if it's like single matches, you've got a much better, I guess,
time frame.
Yeah, because you know this guy's number 1, and you know you're going to be on match 7, and you know if minimum each match, right, 10 minutes sub only, let's say, at least an hour and 10 minutes until like you're on.
Yeah.
And if they go only 5 minutes, you've still got a better idea. You're getting called to the mat, you know, the match before. You're at the warm-up area. You don't have to worry about running over here at the bullpen and blah, blah, blah. You've got someone that kind of focuses on coming down to get you. And I find that's much better as well. I feel like the single mat events are a lot more organised because they don't have to worry about 1,000,001 people. That's a good thing about invitationals as well. They've invited you, like your priority. Everyone that's obviously invited is priority. Whereas at comps, anyone can sign up. They don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you. They've never seen you. You could be the most like erratic, crazy guy on earth. You know what I mean? You could be throwing people into the other mats. Like you could, you know, almost be just some random.
I've only competed twice at 2 comps, and both times a guy didn't turn up, so you just get a buy in the next round. You know what I mean?
I don't like that either. So, don't like that. That's stressful,
definitely.
man.
I mean, well, I got hit with that. So, you know, I went obviously Northern Submission Series, and my opponent didn't show up. But I was thinking, because I was asking about the kind of single match events, single mat events, almost the kind of invitationals and stuff. And speaking of that, I hear you've been invited to one coming up soon. You've recently been asked to, is a sub, what's the show?
Submission Super Fights.
Submission Super Fights. Yeah. You've been asked to be on that.
Not just that. Also.
Oh, you've been on.
Clash as well.
Clash as well. So there's 2 then, right? So obviously not to kind of expose too much of what you're doing, right? But having those 2 in mind, okay. Let's say you go from almost not an off season, because I feel like jiu-jitsu never has seasons, you know, because we're not, you know, 52 games in a year and then we've got a whole summer off. You know, it's you go when you want and as long as you want. Almost.
Tournaments run like
exactly, year round. So does anything change from your not off season, like I say, but kind of off period of competing? Maybe you take 2-3 months out. See, the minute you get that call or that DM of, we've got a guy here for you, or do you want to be on this show? Or in the case of like SGI, for example, there's application forms. The minute that's sent, does your mindset change? Whether you've got an opponent or not, does it change in the mode of everything now has to be kind of not perfect, but everything has to be ramped up? You've got a guy that's now after you in a way. And are you thinking, obviously you don't want to be that guy that's constantly thinking about your opponent. You'd rather not, and you'd rather do your own thing. But in saying that, you ever thinking about your opponent, what he's doing? Or is it all kind of what you're doing as far as training being perfect, nutrition being perfect? Do you change anything?
In terms of my training, no. I'm always shitting myself that someone's like trying to beat me, even if I don't have an opponent. Fair. Like that motivates me a lot. Is even though I don't know his name, there is someone out there who's trying to beat me.
Yep.
You know, whether they know it or not, you know, because this isn't the last, you know, it's not the last time I'm going to compete. So there is going to be someone out there who I'm going to have to fight who is working right now.
Yeah.
In terms of my diet and like nutrition, that changes a bit because obviously I have to make weight.
Yeah.
So if I've not got something booked, I'll be a bit more relaxed with my diet. I'll go a little bit heavier, you know, just because I prefer being a little bit heavier, and then I'll get nice and low for the or for the tournament or the match, you know. Right. When the match gets announced, like when the opponent has a name, you know, it does get a little bit more like psychological with me. You know, I kind of obsess a little bit.
Do you ever go on social media?
Yeah.
Gonna smooth comment. You know what I mean? No, definitely.
So I think
I can relate to that, absolutely.
I think that fundamentally, right? So I'm here trying to solve a problem, which is this guy in front of me. Now, I want to know who he's fought. I want to know how he's won. I want to know what gym he's at. I want to know his style. I want to know how old he is, how tall he is, how strong he is. You know what I mean? That creates a bit of an obsession, which takes over a big part of my life.
Yeah.
So it's not good in other parts of my life, but it means that if you're a leg locker, I'm probably going to know about it before I fight you. If you're a wrestler, I'm probably going to know about it before I fight you. If you're from such a gym, you know, if you're from an MMA gym, you're going to have a particular style. And I have notes on all of this,
right?
You know, and I have notes on how my game applies to each style and how I can adapt my game to each style. So I think that knowing your opponent is very important because you can't, you're gonna have a game, right? You can't just hit your game at different guys and expect it to work every time. You're going to need to know some stuff about this guy. I think that helps a lot, especially if they have like a very notable, like if they have most obvious one, it's 10th Planet. Like if you got a guy from a 10th Planet gym, he's going to have 10th Planet style. He's going to be hitting you with rubber guard. He's going to be hitting you with lockdown.
Well, I mean, in saying that, you had was it 10th Planet black belt you got?
Yeah.
In one of your comps recently.
Yeah.
And obviously speaking about that style, that match, right? I've seen a wee bit of footage from it. Really good performance from you, considering the guy was black belt.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find that? Because obviously you didn't know you're getting them, and that's the thing, right? When you're doing these invitationals, you can do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can write notes. You can think of all right. What's my opponent? Who is he? Mm-hmm. Right? For example, he's from Carson Gracie Hall. He's going to be stand up. He's going to be judo, wrestling, kind of dominant, pins, etc. But tournaments, you don't know who you're going to get. You could get an MMA fighter first match. You could get a guy that's maybe spent 4 or 5 years training but hasn't been promoted yet.
Yeah.
You could get, like you're saying, 10th Planet black belts. Like,
do
you find that? And obviously, I wanted to ask actually about that match. But do you find that when you were in that match with him, was there anything that kind of went, where you wish you were maybe a bit more prepared overall? Not obviously for him specifically, but a bit more prepared overall for, let's say, a 10th Planet style.
No, my main error in that match was the fact that I got like a really good position. I basically got basically his back. I just kind of shat it, to be honest. I was like, I'm not expecting it. I wasn't expecting to get to his back. I've never done that good against a black belt before. I've fought multiple black belts and lost all of them, but I've done increasingly better as I fought them, and I got pretty far ahead on that guy. And I was like, yeah, I don't know why. I had his neck wrapped at one point. I just didn't go for it. I don't know why, but that's what I was saying about have notes. So I don't need to do like particular. Like if I will do an in-depth kind of research on potentially my first opponent or the guys on my side of the bracket, if I can, depending on how many people. But if not, that's why I've got my notes. I've like people subscribe in jiu-jitsu. People subscribe to like archetypes of how they fight, right?
Uh-huh.
You've got your wrestler, you've got your guard puller, you get your leg locker, and people subscribe to let's say like some guy's a big Craig Jones fan. He's going to be like an archetypical Craig Jones, probably a bit shitter nonetheless, but he's going to
definitely shitter.
Yeah. So for example, like when I went down to Manchester at that comp where I fought that black belt, I had another match against this guy, and he had a Gracie Barra Rashi on, and I went, okay, going to understand that style. He's probably not going to be doing leg locks and stuff. First thing he does is try and spin me into inside Senkaku, and I went, shit, okay, this guy's not following what I'm thinking. Now, as the match progressed, about the first 2 minutes, he was playing like a butterfly half style, doing like an Ona Flanagan style shoulder crunch. And I went, this guy's just watched the Ona Flanagan instructional. Okay, cool. I'm going to have to throw out this idea that he's a traditional Gracie Barra guy and start figuring out how to beat this like guy who plays like an Ona Flanagan style.
And how long was this match for?
7 minutes. Or well, it was a sub only match, so 5 minutes, and then if no one subbed each other, then it was 7 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
So luckily I've been doing a lot of work with Big Kenny Haswell from the gym.
Let's go.
He's been playing
Kenny
a lot
House,
of
Kenny House.
Yeah, shout out Kenny. He's legit, man.
Absolutely.
He's the guy that I've been training a lot with, and he's been doing this Ona Flanagan style stuff. So I've been getting quite used to learning how to defend it and counter it. So this guy was hitting me with that. Just, didn't really change from that game plan when it wasn't working. So I just countered it and capitalized. I didn't get the submission on him, but like I won the match. So
yeah. So you guys are still in all the time training together, huh? You and Kenny?
Yeah, not as much. Not as much because I'm doing my placement and whatnot. But and I'm having to like study actually, which is a bit.
So there's this thing, right? I've not been training long enough to sort of experience it myself, but I've obviously heard the thing that all the blue belts quit, right? I always think white belts quit mostly, as obviously, right? But if it's true and most blue belts quit, if that was to come down to one main reason, I always want to ask people this: why do you think it is?
Well, I think that when you're a white belt, you don't get a lot of praise. I don't think you get recognized, you know, even in the gym. Like, you know, most people don't, you know, like there's a lot of random white belts. I think once you get your blue belt, that's like your first big goal. Well done, you've achieved something. And I think people after that go, well, my goal was to get my blue belt. Now what? Wait, I'm going to have to get a purple belt next. Wait, I just did 2 years as a white belt. Now I'm going to have to do 2 years or potentially more as a blue belt. I don't want to suffer that amount again. Fuck this, I'm out. Because I'm good enough to say that, you know, I'm good enough to say I can beat a white belt and I can beat maybe some blue belts. So I don't want to go through this suffering again. And I'm good enough that I can at least say, I can be in a street fight and at least somewhat handle myself, you know? So I think that's why most people quit. I think like, I don't understand it. It's not going to be me. So
no, it's definitely not. Do you, like, speaking of that, like you're saying, do you ever find, right? And I like you were saying about your previous match, right? Not to kind of jump too far back, when you said you shat it when you took his back. Do you ever find that people, I don't know if it's in sport in general or just in life, people are scared to be good because when you're good, more opportunities happen, more workload happens, more expectations. You know, there's a standard you have to hold. Do you find that maybe that is possibly what could be kind of making all the blue belts quit? Or like you were saying there, make guys that maybe aren't black belt, make them kind of not pull the trigger or do certain things that they potentially could, you know, because we've saw that obviously Nicky Rod, for example, he's not the typical blue belt. Obviously he's not blue belt anymore, but when he went ADCC, you know, obviously blasted through trials, no problem, and then came second at ADCC, right? But for a guy like him, everyone just goes, oh, he's a top level wrestler, blah, blah, blah. But see if that was a random kind of blue belt from any other gym, there would be like a, holy shit. You know, like, whereas Nicky Rod, everyone made they were like, oh my God, this guy's on a blue belt, whatever. But then people started making the excuse of like, he's a high level wrestler, you know, he only won with wrestling, he couldn't sub anyone, blah, blah, blah. But if that was anyone else, blue belt, like there would be a, I think it would be a bigger deal. You know, so I think, back to that, do you think people are scared to be good?
100%. I think that if you get a little bit of like, I mean, me personally anyway, I think once I started like doing comps and winning like a lot, it wasn't just a case of like, oh mate, you could be good, like you should definitely compete. It was a case of now, oh no, you are good. Now you got expectation. Now you got to be like, you got to keep up with it, you know? So I definitely felt that. I think that people get turned away from that. I never expected it, like when I kind of felt it, because people would be like, oh, like I've you know, like not make myself seem like a dick, but like people would be like, oh, I've heard about you, you know, I've seen you compete and stuff like that, you know, that kind of jazz. And I was like, fuck, like this is a bit of an expectation, you know? Like when I hit that twister on SGI, I'm the only one to do that on SGI. And dudes were being like, oh, you're that guy that hit the twister. And I was like, no, I'm just a guy, man. Like,
ego trip, innit?
It was a pure ego thing. But then it made me stressed because I was like, if I become shit now, if I lose like all my next 10 matches, then I'm gonna be like, people are gonna be like, oh, that guy, like, you know, just got lucky or whatever. And I'm like, did I get lucky? I don't know. But then like I just keep going and seeing how it happens, and I seem to be doing all right. So I'm trying not to think about it, because if I think about it, I'll stress myself out and I will get scared, you know? So I just try not to think about it and just keep going. And I think that fundamentally as well, like, okay, I'm not doing this because everyone thinks I'm amazing. I'm doing this because it's good for me. Like, I like doing it. You know, like, I'm doing it because, like, you know, I like being part of the community and all that stuff. Like, I'm not only doing it because I'm trying to be like good or whatever, you know? Because I think like, I've seen that happen before. Guys like start winning, get that expectation of themselves, get that kind of, they almost like feel like they've got like a responsibility to win. It comes crashing down, and then they end up leaving.
I never thought about it, man. That's a good observation.
No,
like,
do you know I just feel like that's the thing. Like, because one of the, and it's mad because a boy said it to me in work today. He was like, he's like, you must be doing your job right if they're like, your boss, if you will, was giving you more stress about getting like
doing
doing X amount of jobs, and he's clearly going for you because you do your job right. And he's like, a lot of people don't do their job right or do it well because there's the expectation that they have to do things right. And they're like, oh, we can easily give this job to Fraser. You know what, Fraser, we need cover. We want you because you're the guy. And then it's like, oh, no, I need to do an extra 16 hours work because I'm the guy and I'm good. And you never look at it. No, but it's true. You never look at it as a positive. It's always, fuck. Yeah. I've just been given more stuff. Oh, being good is so great. Oh, I've got extra shit I have to do. But you know, you never look at it as a good thing.
That's why. See, when I'm watching UFC, right, I always watch with the same two boys, like the pay-per-views, and we watch them, right, and I'm like, how do these cunts? Like, sorry, I'm just like, how do these guys walk out here with all this pressure, all this expectation? Obviously, I don't want to go like doing the typical that everybody talks about, but see Conor McGregor, right? See the amount of pressure and expectation that's on his shoulders every time he goes out there. I'm like, just because you talk about the nerves. I remember my second competition, man, I couldn't lift my legs off the ground. I was just so like nervous, and I was like, how do these people do it, man?
Yeah, it's for me, I didn't get less nervous. I just got better at dealing with it. You know, I think a good guy to ask about that when you see him is Chris Duncan, because that guy is a fucking stud. You know,
he's a dog, man.
He's a dog. You know what I mean? Like, not gonna lie, kind of fanboy over that guy.
Yeah.
Like, just look at him, man. He fucking holds his head up high, walks in the UFC, doesn't give a fuck, man.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Sure, mate. I was in work training a client, and I was talking to my client. I was like, oh, there's a guy that like kind of trains at Marcos's. He does jiu-jitsu. Obviously he trains elsewhere and stuff. But he's like, oh, because that's how I know him. And then some guy was like, oh, Is that the Scottish boy Chris Duncan you're talking about? Because I was talking about his UFC debut, and he's like, "Oh, hi man, I've been watching him since he was like an amateur and all that." And I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Who is this guy?" So some random guy in a JID gym is sitting talking about Chris Duncan. It's meant that, like, this is what we need. You know what I mean? Your guys like Chris Duncan, Paul Craig, all the kind of anyone Scottish. Like, I feel like just Scotland is very good at a lot of things.
I feel like Reece McCoon's going to get
Reece McCoon.
I've been watching him since amateur, man.
But like, Scotland's good at a lot of things, but we just don't have the exposure. You know, no one's really like everyone kind of.
How do you think we fix that? And same question to Fraser.
Yeah, stuff like this.
Stuff like this, but I also feel like so many people.
Shout out Stoomboy and all, man. He's been for a long time.
That's a good point, man. He does work. He does work.
But like stuff like him, right? So stuff like him. Like Stoom's really good for it because he starts at the amateur level all the way up to like the pros.
Yeah.
But not even that. I feel like a lot of people do well in Scotland, and the minute they get the opportunity to go, they go. And fair enough, because you have to be selfish, especially in grappling. MMA, you have to be selfish and go to the best gym. You have to go and prep at the best gym because what does that do? It gives you the best opportunity, puts you around the best guys. But I feel like that's where Scotland, like for Scotland example, that's where we kind of fall down.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There's a lot of good in Scotland, but there's a lot of good somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's where what people would rather do. They get the opportunity to go somewhere else. I don't blame them. They're going to take it. In Jiu-Jitsu, for example, you get the opportunity to go train at a B team or a New Wave.
Yeah.
You're going to take it. You'd be stupid. You can't turn it down. And no one would say anything. Everyone would be like, you'd be stupid to turn it down. Go. Because you have to be selfish, especially in a sport like this. Like, yeah, you have teammates. And realistically, when you step on that mat, all the work you and your teammates have done is what helps win that match. You're showing what your coach and your teammates have helped build. You know, every time you compete. And like, I think that's just what happens is they get the opportunity to go, and by all means, you know, they go.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's possibly what could be happening?
Oh yeah. I think, but that happens in most places, in most sports. You know, the best guys accumulate, and they generally accumulate where the biggest coverage is, and the biggest coverage is generally in America.
Yeah.
So the best guys are going to accumulate there. Doesn't mean you can't get good, doesn't mean you can't represent where you're from.
Yeah.
I don't think jiu-jitsu is ever going to be world class in Scotland, just like jiu-jitsu is never going to be world class in any other part of the world other than Brazil and America.
I mean, you say that, but then you've got Shea.
No, but do you know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be an accumulation of like world class athletes coming to Scotland just to train.
Right.
You'll get your Shays and your Marks and that. Like, you will get your
outliers.
Like, but it's not like people aren't going to move here to train.
Right.
You know?
Okay. That makes sense.
Like, I know some guys might have done, you know, especially maybe for like MMA at higher level, you know, like they've got like a really good facility with like world class guys. But But I just think like, yeah, like if you're gonna make this a career, it's easier to go to America as well, especially if you're doing MMA, because the UFC is predominantly in America.
Yeah.
So it's just easier that way, I think. You know, it's shite, but like we shite that that this is our little corner of the world and we're stuck here, but you know, like it's good fun as well, man. You know, like repping Scotland is the best thing to do.
I feel like when I saw that that Leathered podcast episode where Paul Craig was talking about Mike Perry, he said, "Let's fucking go Scotland," all that stuff. Like that's the thing. People do love us, but I think people love us more than we love ourselves.
That's the best quote I've heard in a while, man. That people love us more than we love ourselves.
No, but genuinely, I feel like people love Scotland because of a Braveheart. Obviously, you go on TikTok, it's the whole freedom. It's like I feel
known
like
for its accuracy.
I feel like people love Scotland more than like Scotland loves itself.
Oh yeah,
I feel like Scotland's very good at like playing everything down and putting each other down, and we're all, you know what I mean?
We're very self-deprecating in everything that we do.
The perfect way to put it.
Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like, yeah, we're always very self-deprecating. I think that for me though, like, so, this brand called Hard Life Fightwear just released these like Scotland shorts,
right?
You know, jiu-jitsu ones,
yeah,
or MMA ones. You know, Scotland jiu-jitsu MMA. They look fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And when I did this last comp, bought a pair the day they came out.
Yep.
Stuck them on, went down to Manchester, won gold, podium photo in Manchester, in England, with the Scotland shorts. Felt pretty good.
Yeah.
Felt pretty good, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Like, no, it's perfect you say that, like, because I remember like growing up wrestling and stuff and competing. Hardly in the comps, maybe one or two comps in Scotland, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
We would always drive down south and see going down south 4 or 5, sometimes even like a minibus down, right? And coming home, everybody with a medal, having just like scrapped some of the best guys, like obviously at our age and kind of weight class in England. And just knowing that this wee team for Scotland, definitely a known team in the UK, for obviously top level wrestlers, but going down there and just stealing all the hardware, man. Going down there, there's, you know what I mean? There's like 10 guys in your division, let's say, and 9 of them are English. If it's just you and you've just rattled through all of them and you're standing on the podium, exactly. Sometimes it's their club running the comp.
Yeah.
You know, it's their city, their town or whatever, and you're the man on the podium with them either not on the podium or below you. Do you know what I mean? Just that feeling is unreal.
I can't quite relate as of yet.
But in saying that, do you feel that then? Like, it's perfect. How do you find that the quality is? Right, because you've competed in Scotland, you've competed down south, you've competed in Ireland. He's got an accent if you'd already, I can see it. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you find the quality is in Scotland in comparison to other places you competed?
That's such a good question. It's such an annoying question as well, because there's some really trash guys and there's some really good guys everywhere. I think my answer is a bit of a non-answer. So I think that there's more people elsewhere.
Yep.
Meaning there's more shit people elsewhere. But there's also more good people. However, I think in Scotland, right, obviously I'm a bit biased because I am pretty deep into the community and I, you know, surround myself a lot with the better guys in the community, you know, better competitors and whatnot, because those are the guys I train with and see often. I think that there's less people obviously training up here than there is in England, but I think there's more dedicated people up here. Obviously, I'm saying that though, being around all these people, so I probably know them more. But like in my first comp, right? Like, I don't know how many Scottish folk went down, but I said this actually on Stoom's podcast last year. Most of the guys that came down from Scotland won gold, if not a medal, you know? And I just think like, yeah, I think there's more committed guys up here, but less guys overall. Yeah.
Do you think it's that way of like it's the kind of concentrated talent, like you're saying? Because I feel like when you look at the US, like obviously right now, for the most part, they're doing really well, kind of world level and stuff. But obviously Brazil, the thing with Brazil though is there's a lot of them, and they're all fucking good. And it's like, so what is that? What is it about there being a lot of people and a lot of them being good? But in some places there's a lot of them, but 2/3 are shit. It's like
it's part of the culture. Yeah. So like, if you have a culture that's not particularly invested in like sports or a particular sport, for example, then, you know, you're not going to get great results. But if you've like, you know, it's like in America, like they're all fucking wrestlers, you know, for the most part. And even if they're not all wrestlers, they're all invested in sport. Sport is a big thing over there.
Definitely.
And if that might not be the case in other places, you know, and I think that obviously has an impact on the regional performance of a particular place, you know.
I think as well, like you're saying there about wrestlers, like I feel like a lot of guys that are good at the start, or let's say they get really good. You've got guys like Brock Lesnar, for example, who's obviously pretty good college wrestler, and then once he was done with that, went to the NFL and done some weird stuff in the NFL, and then obviously ended up in WWE. It was WWE first, wasn't it?
He's one of those guys that just goes anywhere.
Was it WWE first or UFC? I can't even remember.
No, WWE then the UFC.
So when WWE, do you know what I mean, right? This is a guy that was good, who probably could have been something, but then he started bouncing his talents elsewhere, right? And it could be it's money, and that's the thing. Like we were saying earlier about the opportunity thing. And then he's bouncing about WWE, and then he goes to the UFC, and then he obviously does very well. And then he ends up getting fucked up in the end, and then goes back to WWE, and then he keeps bouncing about. I think based on that, right, if you don't, it's very hard. There's a lot of interest out there and different things, right? For example, you were talking about climbing earlier. I know you've got an interest in like kind of skydiving and stuff like that. The tough thing about a sport like MMA and grappling, you can't really have too many interests that you're invested in, because they take away either energy or mental capacity or whatever for what you're doing in that sport.
That's what I wonder. Like, see the guys, I think I've felt like the Vitolo Brothers mentioning MMA. I'm not saying they're going to do it in, but I always wonder, like, so see guys that are just amazing at jiu-jitsu and then think, right, I'll try a bit of MMA. Do you think that's just like a path for other guys to catch up, if you know what I mean, in the jiu-jitsu world?
I don't know what you mean, like guys like, you know, like Fabricio Verdum or something, who were like elite level grapplers and then did MMA and all that jazz. I think now, yeah. Before, no. Before jiu-jitsu wasn't as evolved enough for it to be that big of a gap. But I think now, if you want to take time off to do MMA, your grappling will suffer if you are doing it full time. You know, if you're an elite level guy, obviously, like if you're not an elite level guy, I don't think it's the end of the world. You know, but I think like grappling's too deep now. It's too deep to diversify, to jump between grappling, to jump between, you know, MMA and grappling and all that jazz. Like it's a lot, man.
Do you think there's getting like less, like if we talk about, I've always got this question, all right, so see if there's like a percentage of grappling or jiu-jitsu that can transfer over to MMA, do you think percentage is getting lower and lower and lower, the kind of new stuff that's getting discovered, if you know what I mean?
As a whole, yeah, but depends how you play your game, doesn't it? You know what I mean? If you have like, so if you like only do the gi and you play them like craziest berimbolo-y, upside downy inverted style, that's not going to translate very well. But if you have a pretty solid foundational game built from the ground up, I think you should be all right. Like for the most part.
Just while we're on the topic of MMA, Izzy and Pereira, who's going to win?
That's a pure shit one. I want Izzy to win, but like Pereira's fucking huge, man, and he like somehow wins, even though like Izzy like does technically beat him, and then he just gets knocked out, man. And I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah,
you know,
it makes you wonder as well, man. Like the amount of weight he cuts and stuff. Like how honest the fact. Obviously, they like the 24-hour weigh-in or whatever, but it makes you wonder like what the guy's made of to cut the amount of weight he does. No emotion change. I saw a photo of him in like one of those like sauna tent things, and he's just staring like at the camera the same way he does when he does his actual weigh-in, same way he does when he's fighting. You just get the same face every time.
I think that's why that matchup is like, so people want to see good fights, right? But people really want to see good personality clashes, you know? And I think those guys, Izzy and Pereira, are perfectly opposite personalities, in the sense that you've got this guy in Izzy who is super expressive, who takes that into his fighting style, you know, and will highlight that, you know, put that on a show. If you watch any of his fights, you know, he very much is creative, displays all of his personality, you know, throws it out there. But then you've got the opposite in Pereira, who doesn't express anything. You know, you could you probably stab him in the leg and he wouldn't change his facial expression. And I think that is another reason why this matchup is so intriguing for folk. Obviously with their background included, but I think personality wise, that's interesting because it kind of shows you which one will win. You know, is it this guy who expresses himself openly and clearly and like, goes for it, or is it the stone cold killer? Which one is it? I
never thought about it. That's quite good actually, man. That's a good shout.
It's the same way like you say, but because like I was talking about, we obviously made the kind of jokes and stuff at training one day, and it was like, I think Wyatt, one of the boys that trains was like, you're looking pretty tough, dude, and then obviously Fraser's like, yeah, you look fucked up, and I was like, just that way of like the most fucked up looking guy tends to be, there's something about them, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They look fucked up, they're not pretty, but it's like you're saying with the style, the personality clash and stuff, sometimes the most fucked up looking guy looks fucked up because he's getting fucked up. And sometimes the pretty face guy is actually the dominant one. But in saying that, you get the flip, where there's these guys, and the reason they're so fucked up looking, is it because, they're not in it because they're not looking that way because they're getting fucked up, but they're in it because they are looking fucked up, if that makes sense.
I think
like just some dodgy looking characters. Like you get some guys that like, especially you get some mad wrestlers like absolutely destroyed ears. You know what I mean? Like their jaws are about 4 times the size of the average man. Their forehead is really small. You know what I mean? Like just some odd looking creatures, man.
Yeah, I think the way you look doesn't necessarily correlate with the way your personality runs. It can do sometimes, but I think that it's too far to make a solid correlation with, because like some guys will express themselves quite openly, but in terms of their personality will be quite reserved, and you'll get the opposite of that as well. Some guy who maybe isn't the doesn't look like the life of the party, but if you get him talking, then he'll talk for ages. And it like vice versa. People are people.
That's why I was like different. Speaking to people like you, man. Like, you're so quiet, and I don't know. It's just so quiet, and then when you start talking, it's like you've got a perspective. Not to bum you up in it, but you've got a perspective that you don't hear from a lot of people. It's always well thought out.
Definitely, man. Like once you get talking to Fraser, man, it's like you just. Mate, you learn so much, man. See the amount of times like I've had a chat with this guy when I've maybe not been the best, mate, and he starts talking to me about life, right? But he uses jiu-jitsu analogies, and I'm like, where is this coming from? He's like, mate, think about it. It's like jiu-jitsu, man. You might do this technique and it might work, and one day it doesn't work. What you gonna do? You're fucked. He's like, you need to learn. You know what I mean? You need to learn and stuff.
Well, I think that fundamentally, like jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general is a good metaphor for life, and like from what I've found is, generally speaking, if you root what you learn in truth, that applies everywhere. I think that I try and take a deeper approach to jiu-jitsu and life in general, rather than just like a surface view of, oh, I'm just rolling around on the floor trying to break this guy's arm. There's actually a bit more than that, like I said earlier, I was, talking about the archetypical fighters that you have, your leg lockers, your wrestlers, your guard pillars, blah, 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 your Berimbolo kind of guys, they all people I think are a bit more complicated than just like, oh, I just do jiu-jitsu, so I think you can learn a lot about yourself by kind of reverse engineering that. Same goes for like, skydiving and stuff as well. It happens all the time, because when you're pushed to a mega amount of stress, like the nitty gritty of your personality comes out. And I think that's kind of where you can kind of learn a lot from, So I think using analogies of jiu-jitsu, and like if I'm chatting to like one of my mates who I skydive with, I can use this analogy for skydiving for that, because it is fundamentally built on like a truth which applies to everything, like, because it's real. It's as real as it gets,
Yeah.
That's fucking beautiful. I'm being genuinely serious. That is class.
Yeah, that's kind of what I try and do.
Speaking about the skydiving there, then. So, one question. I've got a few questions. One, how long have you been doing it, right? But two, skydiving compared to jiu-jitsu, as far as I guess what it gives you, if that makes sense. The I don't know how you would word it, man, but like,
I understand.
Yeah, the feeling it gives you, because obviously jiu-jitsu is it's a journey. You know, it's like you've got a comp in 3 months. You build up. It's a journey. There's 3 months worth of this, and then obviously the kind of climax, if you will, if you win. Yeah. If you win, you know, you've beat someone, like you've won something, like you know, there's a lot went on that. Whereas skydiving, not to obviously like dumb it down, but you know, it's the kind of, obviously you just in a plane, and you jump out. You know, obviously what you're expecting. It's a scary thing. Like,
mate, I'm gonna take you skydiving, and if you look anything other than totally chill, I'm gonna laugh at you forever. And I'm gonna
I'll go
clip this audio over that.
Yeah.
Taylor Pure bumming it down. Oh yeah, it's not that. Winning a jiu-jitsu comp is way more intense than skydiving. No, I'm gonna have a video of his face as he leaves the plane, and he will look like a scared little boy.
Talk about out of context.
And his cauliflower will hit the plane as he fucking flies out.
Do you date regularly?
That's not what I meant.
I've done 216 jumps over.
What?
216
So
jumps.
how many? How can't even speak. So how many years is that then?
Like 5-6 years.
What?
Yeah.
So how many jumps you do in a year?
Fuck, I don't know. I did most of my jumps during lockdown, actually, or during like the COVID year. So yeah, 2018 I did like 25 jumps, and that was the year that I learned. So in May I started, and by the end of the year I'd done like 25 jumps. Year after that I'd maybe on like 70 jumps.
So you're qualified. I'm just guessing you're qualified to do it yourself then.
Aye. I've done 216 jumps on my own, and then I did one tandem when I was 16. Tandem attached to someone.
I'll attach myself to you, mate, happily, right? Genuine. No, we'll do this because
I'll watch for the bottom.
Because that's no.
Oh no, I won't jump attached. I'll get some other guy to do that. I'll be standing right in front of your face.
I'll make it, recording it, making sure that fuck it.
Yeah, because I want to see your terrified face as you leave the plane.
You know, that's not what I meant. I just meant in the sense that obviously they're different. Because I can imagine the adrenaline dump and the fear. You know, there's a lot that I know that for me, like I'd be shitting myself up in a plane. Like I fucking, you know what I mean? Like there's some things in life that I just can't. Like I can't swim. I'm not scared of water, but the idea of me not being able to swim makes me scared.
Yeah, this is like not being able to swim, standing on a pool and then jumping into the deep end.
But that's what I mean. So like I can like that's not what obviously like me standing in that plane, I would be shitting myself, and that's not what I meant. I just mean in the sense of like the reward of you know. Winning a comp compared to, I guess, the reward of hitting your 216th jump.
Yeah.
You know,
it changes. Like that's a really weird thing that I found with skydiving. Jiu-jitsu, you know, I've done like nearly 50 comp matches. I don't even know, probably about that much.
It's like a quarter.
Well, actually no, I've done about nearly 40 comp matches, I think. But anyway, that kind of stays the same in terms of like the build up and then the fight and then the after. Skydiving changes because initially it's this actual terror. It's like the worst terror you've ever felt. And it's not like there's a type of terror where you actually think you're going to die. And that's kind of what it feels like with skydiving. Jiu-jitsu never really felt that way for me, but the skydiving felt that way for me. But it changes because the more you do it, the less of that kind of terror you experience and more of a kind of enjoyment. But you have to balance it, you know, and it does change from person to person. So for me, like, I think about like 70 jumps, I stopped feeling scared, which kind of worried me, you know, because I was like, well, I want to feel scared. I want to have respect for the thing that I'm doing.
It's risk, innit? It's
exactly.
Like the idea of like risk and surviving it, like.
Because if I'm not scared of this even a little bit, I'm not going to respect it. And I've seen a few guys that went in because of that, because they didn't respect what they were doing.
If you heard about GSP, sorry to interrupt. This is completely exactly what you're talking about when GSP stopped when he fought Matt Serra. The first time it was only fight he was in Splitter and he get fucked, man.
Yeah. That's
what a way to put it, man.
That's exactly what you're talking about.
It does happen, you know, like it's easy when you've done 200 jumps, it's easy to forget that you're actually jumping out of a plane, that you know, because you just do it like you can hit like 6-7 jumps a day, boom, boom, boom. So you kind of forget, you become very complacent. And after like knowing a few guys that went in and whatnot, it really kind of hit home, you know, the kind of actual consequences of it. So I started trying to get a little bit of fear back, and that helped me like keep it safe and keep it, you know, not do stupid shit basically when jumping out of a plane.
And how did you get the fear back?
I would, obviously the plane ride is about 15 minutes up to 15,000 feet.
Yep.
So you're sitting in the plane for 15 minutes just looking at the back of a dude's head. So I just kind of go into a bit of a meditation on thinking about what I'm actually doing and really kind of grasping how high up I am, because you kind of forget how high up you are when you're 15,000 feet. You don't really recognize it. So I start like going over the consequences of what I'm doing, going over potential like bad things that could happen, and really kind of chewing over it. And that would bring my fear up, and that would make me have a lot more respect for what I was doing, and kind of like, yeah, help manage it. I totally forgot what your original question was. I'm sorry.
That's what this is all about. You just kind of go off.
I just went off on it.
No, it's all good.
But sorry, it changes. Yeah.
No, it was the question was like if you were to compare the reward feeling of skydiving to jiu-jitsu, like how would you describe that? Is there a difference?
Oh yeah.
And what is that difference?
So skydiving is like parachute opens or you land. Both are fucking really good moments. And you know, it's like it's less of a it's more of like just like euphoria. Mm-hmm. Whereas for me, jiu-jitsu, when I win, it's more of a like stress release. Yeah. I'm like, oh fine, thank God that's all over. It's not like, hey, I'm the king of the world. Look, you know, look at me. You know, I'm not like that. I'm more like, thank God that's over. That feels good that that's over. It's like after you finish an exam, you know, or some shit like that.
But no, the reason I was asking is like, obviously, like I said, obviously, I'd be shitting myself skydiving, right? For anybody that skydives, right? I'd be scared. Mm-hmm. But
just made it clear there.
just in case, you know, I do look like I'm shitting myself when I go. I'll go skydiving, right? We can cut this and clip it, and I'll go skydiving with you, right? But I just mean in the sense like 10-minute match.
Yeah.
The amount of effort that goes into that. Someone try to basically take your limbs off, choke you out. You're trying to do the same. There's a lot of clashing, a lot of hurt. You know, a lot of and like you say, like respect and stuff. There's a lot of respect of shit. This guy might be good. Fuck, I fucked that up. There's a lot going on in your head. You know,
in the moment.
Whereas with skydiving, like you know, there's a lot of things going on. Obviously, you need to pull the parachute at the right time. You need to do all these things. Mm-hmm. But obviously, at your point now of like all these jumps, you know that it's like playing in the air, experiencing that parachute ground. Whereas a jiu-jitsu match, you could get blast doubled off the stage, and now you need to be like, right, definitely wasn't expecting that. That hurts. I've got a pint glass smashed into my head.
Like so, put something in a triangle and then it's flat. That's another one.
And then you're like, but then you go in and you're like, right, I'm gonna do the same. And they don't expect that. Oh fuck! Like, and there's just so much back and forth of random things happening, and effort and grind. The whole Rocky thing. Sometimes you just need to take a beating and stand up, man. Yeah. Whereas with skydiving, it's like
not like that.
It's a bit more like A to B.
It's a long distance.
It's a long distance.
Taylor's like A, seat shit. No, it's said B. No, it's B.
For some reason, I was going to say A is E there. I was like, fucking got me 26 steps. Mate.
There you go, well done.
I don't want ABCs.
Big brain moment.
Clip that.
Yeah. Clip that shit. Yeah. So
mate, it's all good.
When you obviously when you learn how to skydive, you're fundamentally doing it for fun. I don't know about you, but when I'm halfway through a jiu-jitsu match, I'm not exactly thinking this is fun right now. I'm thinking I want to fucking get this guy out of here.
That's valid. That's valid.
So when I'm like skydiving, like I'm thinking like it's less grindy, you know, because it only lasts. So fundamentally, skydive only lasts a minute, really. You know, maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit less, depending on how high up you jump for. Parachute opens, and then you've maybe got about 3 minutes to get to the ground. So to break it down into the skydiving part and then the actual flying the canopy down. Skydiving part, the only thing you need to worry about really is pulling your parachute and not hitting into someone at like 100 miles an hour. Obviously, if we all skydive together, if I can see you both, we're chilling. I'm going to be enjoying every moment of it. I'll be smiling. Like you guys will be smiling. It'll be the best thing ever, right? If I see you running at me or flying at me at 100 miles an hour, I'm going to be pretty scared, you know? Yeah. So but the good thing about skydiving is you can fly away from the guy. So just fly away. It's fine, you know? You got a really good bailout, you know?
Look at that in jiu-jitsu, try and fly away.
Exactly.
You can drag back in.
You can fly away and you can just pull your parachute, right? Once the parachute is pulled, you've got about 5 seconds until it opens. That is when I shit myself. Because I look up and it kind of flutters before it opens. It looks like a bit of a plastic bag in the wind. And like, you're counting in your head. You're like, 1, 2.
Like a plastic bag.
You're counting like, up to 5 in your head, and sometimes it gets to 6, and sometimes it gets to fucking 7.
Shit, man.
And you got the toggles, and you start fucking shaking the toggles. You're like, fucking open, motherfucker. And the ground starts getting really fucking close. And once it opens, it's like a pure relief. You're like, okay, thank God. Now you can start enjoying it again. So it's like pure enjoyment, 5 seconds of goddamn terror, and then pure enjoyment after that. The thing with the canopy flight though is you're not falling very fast, but now you need to make sure you don't land on anything that's going to kill you. So the last place I jumped was
helicopters, man. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. You don't want to land on flying things. You don't want to land on houses. You don't want to land on. Actually, no, I haven't. No, but that's a good thing. You don't want to.
You one of these guys that needs an adrenaline rush.
Yeah. Well, I just need something to keep myself interested in.
The kind of guy that sees like a bus coming, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to run a few meters before the bus hits.
Nah, I just think I like things that are intense, that will keep me interested. I like things that teach you a lot about yourself. I'm not interested in doing some mind-numbing shit. I'm interested in finding out about myself. I'm interested in getting the most out of life that I can. I think that's a big thing for me, is like trying to, like, people say like, oh, Fraser, you're 22, you're only young. I'm like, I'm really not. If you give me like enough years, I would do everything possible. Right. So I don't feel super young. I feel like I'm running out of time, and I want to get as much in as I can. And I think that if I go and go and learn how to jump out of planes, like, that is a very unique experience that teaches you a lot about yourself, teaches you a lot about about life in general, and also gives you a great opportunity to meet folk as well, and travel and see different places. Like, I've jumped in 6 different countries, on the beach, over mountains, all that kind of jazz. Like I want to see as much as I can when I can, and that's a good way to see it, and it's a good way to meet people, because well, fucking hell, like, you get some mental folk from all over the world that want to jump out of planes with you. So same with jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
just kind of going off what you said there, and it's a bit of a deep question, right? So
okay.
Obviously, because you're saying you learn a lot about yourself. So what's the biggest thing you think you've learned about yourself?
I think that like your mindset determines a lot of what you're able to do. When I saw people say, like, when I do a skydive, and people say to themselves, and you go, hey bro, you okay? You ready to do the skydive? And they say, I can't do it, man. I go, well, you can. Like, trust me, you can. Physically, your body's able to. Mm-hmm. When I see jiu-jitsu people, and before they compete, and they go, oh, I don't know if I can go out there. You can. They go, oh, I don't know the moves to beat this guy. And I go, well, you can know the moves. The guy who knows the moves has got the same amount of limbs that you do. So you can physically do everything that you want to do. It's just that where you're at in your head might not let you do that. So I think that becoming a master of that, and getting used to telling yourself that you actually can do shit rather than can't, is a big thing for me anyway. And that's what I learned a lot, because before I did jiu-jitsu and before I did skydiving or any of this jazz, I was a pretty quiet, pretty nervous. I mean, like, pretty not great guy, like I think I was nice, but nice I wasn't going anywhere. Like, personality wise, I wasn't going anywhere, wasn't doing anything. I was pretty much just like floating. Right. And because I didn't believe in myself, and I think, like, when I learned how to fight people and learn how to jump out of planes and stuff and all that jazz, I was like, no, I actually can start doing all this stuff that I used to be able to be like, oh, I can never do that. And now I feel like I'm at a point now where if you hit me with a challenge, I can go, okay, I can smash that right now. But if I can't smash that right now, I'll be like, give me a week and I'll smash it. Give me a month and I'll smash it. Because
that's class, man. I like that.
Yeah. Like, if I can't physically do it right now, I will be able to do it in some point, there's no limitations, or, realistically speaking, on what you can do. Obviously, there is some things you can't fucking do.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there is some things you can't fucking do.
I know,
but within reason,
Yeah, I think looking at it is like like a journey as opposed to a destination in it. Because like the whole thing of like the person that loves to walk will walk further than the person that like loves the destination.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's so it's one of those ones.
You want to jump onto these?
Bye,
Right,
so we're gonna do it. So at the end of kind of each episode, what we've kind of come up with a few wee questions, some relevant to what we're talking about, some irrelevant. That's not even English, mate. Some are relevant, some relevant to kind of what we're talking about. Things that are just get nothing to do with it, right?
Questions that you'd ask if you were high as fuck, basically.
Basically, mate.
Maybe I'm high as
fuck. Do you one at a time?
Aye, so
I've got to try and fire through this in just over 10 minutes, right?
We've got them written down here, man. Should UFC interim titles be silver?
Yes. That's a good fucking idea, actually.
What's the most... That was my question. I'm just pointing out. Of course that was...
Mate, I don't know anything about MMA, man, if I'm honest.
What's the most painful submission?
Twister.
The
Twister.
Why?
Do you know he's the only guy to do that in SGI?
He's the only guy in SGI, mate. Do you know that?
Because everybody taps.
That's Danny McCallion, that. Shout out Danny, I know, cracking guy.
Yeah.
He said the same answer, Twister. He's like that. You just know something's going to pop, but you don't know what it is, know what I mean?
that or maybe a Japanese necktie.
It's the fear in it, man. You
Yeah.
get caught in it and you're like, nah, I feel alright just now, man.
Yeah.
Chiropractors do this all the time. Both. Those, man.
I've seen people survive a Japanese necktie. I've not seen many folks survive a fully locked in twister. And everyone, yeah, like that hurts pretty bad. But maybe a Japanese necktie, I'd maybe give it to that. Shout out to Mott, by the way. He fucking absolutely kills me with that.
Next one. If you could change one thing about the grappling community, what would it be?
All right. People stressing too much about, like, what's the word? People stressing too much. People think it's this big, like, you know, obviously it's a very involved thing. People think that it's like their whole life. At the end of the day, it's just fighting people. Like it's just, you know, like it's not the be all end all to the world. You know, I think that people take it a bit too seriously, a bit too, like, you know, I think there's a lot of beef that doesn't really need to be there. I think that, yeah, it'd be nice if like folk were a bit more chill in that sense. I've just seen some of the way that folk like treat each other in the grappling community, and I'm like, yo, dude, like we're just having fun, man. Like this isn't.
We all want the same thing.
We all want the same thing. Like you know, this like maybe, you know, like it's There's too many examples, man. There's too many examples.
Right. Do leg locks work in the street?
They can.
They can.
Yeah, they can.
What scenarios they work in?
1-on-1. If you're the better leg locker, if there's no one else there.
If you are the leg locker.
If you are the leg locker, yeah.
So.
Bottom one.
So, what's the best MMA fight you've ever watched?
Based on enjoyment, how you enjoy it.
Not like, you know, being the biggest names. Like, what's a match you've seen and you've went, fuck me. Like, one that maybe before you started MMA, you were like, fucking this is what this could be. Like, fucking.
In terms of like the most masterclass performance, I'd probably say Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez. That was like the absolute epitome of perfection, in my opinion, in terms of striking anyway. In terms of grappling, God, I don't know. There's too many fun. Probably Khabib. Maybe Khabib versus Conor. That's probably the best, like one of the best MMA fights I've ever seen. For the personality and the story and all that. Yeah. But I'll go with Conor McGregor and Eddie Alvarez because that is just the masterclass of, you know, like Conor was untouchable in that fight. That was unbelievable.
Right, so these are just 5 kind of off the top of the head, strange questions, not today with the full conversation we've had for another half.
Okay,
right?
Shit.
Time to chill.
So first one is, are aliens real?
Probably.
Okay,
that's what you're going with.
Yeah,
probably.
Mate, I'm a scientist. I'm an engineer. You know, I'm a chemical engineer. Like done maths, physics, chemistry.
You're a master builder as well, mate.
Oh God, we never talked about that. That's maybe for the next episode. But yeah, probably
real. Cool. Next one. Is the world a better place with or without social media?
As social media is right now, it's a worse place. But there could be a scenario in which social media is beneficial to everybody. I think that, if it's a bit too integrated right now, I think less integration would be a bit better. But stop checking your social media.
I'm
That's what you were doing
I'm
right
checking
there.
the time. I know it's a bit rude. There's no clocks on.
So you got to get a watch on, man.
I know, I'll bring a watch next time. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received, whether it's related to grappling or elsewhere?
What the fuck, man? How long do you give me to answer this question?
But we're ahead of schedule, so you've got plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
I don't know. I can't head it down into one person, but what I would say is anytime anyone has told me don't be a pussy, just fucking do it. Like that's always kind of resonated well, you know, like it doesn't matter how you feel about it, just fucking do it. Whether it's something you're scared to do, whether it's something you know, like you really don't want to do, something you have to do, but you don't want to do it anyway. Just anytime someone's been like, don't be a fucking pussy, like get on with it. That's always helped. My dad's very good at that. He kind of says that kind of stuff to me. Yeah. Not word for word, but yeah, he's very good at telling me to shut up and get over it.
No, that's fair. Next, who's the most famous person to ever live in your opinion, other than Jesus?
Was that him? Did he make that question?
No comment.
The most famous person
in your opinion to ever live, mate. Who's the guy?
Marcos Nardini. That guy.
Has to be Marcos Nardini, innit?
That guy is Jesus. Actually.
Yes, mate. Yeah,
he probably
that's
is.
Valid.
Yeah.
Jesus with a gi and a black belt, man.
Yeah. If Jesus had a black belt, it would be Marcos.
In 2 massive years, man. two massive.
And a great Brazilian accent, which I will not try and imitate right now.
Oh, Craig done it on that leather podcast.
Yeah.
Keep going, bro.
I was rolling with Kenny, right? I was rolling with Kenny the other day, and the timer went off, and he was in like mount on me. He just whispered on me, he was like, keep going, man. Keep going. I was like, fuck off.
I think it was like, keep going, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And the last one is, and kind of crack on with these and make some up there, but we've got, the last one I've wrote in is, do you have a controversial opinion?
A controversial opinion. Honestly, I think a lot about like what I was saying about in terms of mindset and stuff. I think that's pretty fucking controversial. I think that a lot of folks reject that for a pure boring regular life without meaning because it's easy. I think that when you sit folk down and get them to check themselves, I think that's pretty controversial because a lot of folk don't want to do that, which is why I surround myself with people that do want to do that, like in jiu-jitsu. So yeah.
Just before we wrap up, what's the plans for tomorrow at the weekend?
Saturday, April 1st. What's the plans?
Well, so I'll get up. I'll go to Marcos's. Me and Marcos will drive down to Grapplefest. They've asked me to be the backup fighter, so I gotta go down, bring my stuff. If anyone can't make it, or you know whatnot, they've got a lot of matches on that are like my weight, so they've asked me to come down and bring my stuff, and see what's what. If nothing happens, then I'll watch Mark smash Big Dan.
Yeah, Mark's gonna smash Big Dan.
Exactly, I'm calling it right now.
Mark's gonna smash Big Dan.
Mark will smash Big Dan.
Finish or what?
I don't know. I don't see it being a finish. I see Mark just dominating him for the entire match.
Yeah, I agree with that. I see Mark grinding him down, man.
Yeah.
I don't think Big Dan's had a guy like Mark yet.
Yeah.
And I think Mark, since last trials till now, the fucking improvements. You literally see that guy, like, you see him train obviously at comp class, and you see him the next week at comp class, and he's got fucking something new.
Yeah.
He's got something new, and obviously, like, when he got his brown belt, for example, Marcos was like, I have nothing. Like, there's nothing else I can do to get in this guy's way of giving him his brown belt. Like, that's the thing. He fucking, anything that gets in his way, he sticks in it, and he fucking stamps it.
Yeah, out, and that's the same with all the Scottish guys down at Grapplefest that are competing. So I can't even. There's too many guys. Fucking Big Oscar. He won the contenders. Fucking
Oscars will be a good one.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
He'll win his match 100%. Gary Priestley, he'll fucking throw some mad shit. Like, I don't even know who he's fighting, but he'll throw some mad shit. Kev McClune is fighting that guy that choked out Gordon Ryan.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't think Kev has ever lost anything. So Kev wins everything. Who else is there? Fuck, I don't know. Ellis Younger's on it. He's class as well.
He's not Scottish, but yeah, we'll give you that.
He's. Yeah, I like Ellis.
He's close to Euro, which is good. You know what I
mean? Yeah. But yeah, so the plan is got to bring my stuff. I don't know if I need to weigh in necessarily, but I got to be ready to weigh in. And then if the match falls through, hopefully I think they might get me on the next one. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Don't have anything obviously to say about that, but yeah.
Like that call, then you're saying that they've asked you to be a backup. How did that happen? That does it, especially for Grapplefest, where it's mainly only purple belt and above.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unless you win the contenders, obviously. But how does that happen?
Well, because I'm competing as a purple belt now, I think it's fine. So, you know, they posted on their story like they were looking for like an under 90 kilo purple belt. This was like 7 in the morning. I literally woke up and saw it, and I just messaged them. I was like, "Oh, hey, I'll take a match if you need a guy." They were like, "Send me over some of your wins." I was like, "Okay, cool, done that." They were like, "You should do." I don't know what happened. Like they said they needed me, and then they were like, "We were not sure." I think the guy that pulled out might not have pulled out or something. Not really sure what happened, but they basically were like, "Come down, bring your stuff." You know, I'm coming down anyway. So they were like, "Bring your stuff and we might get you a match." So
yeah,
don't know.
Exciting stuff, man. That's the thing as well. But you, mate, you fuck it. If you get on, you smash it. If you get on the next one, you smash it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, we spoke a lot about your style. Like you're good. That's the thing. You're good. You've been grinding it out past 5 years. Like I genuinely think the fact that you're a blue belt, obviously, however long you've been training, you're still a blue belt. So clearly, there's a reason for that. But the fact that you compete up and are willing to compete up, compete purple, you know, actually compete purple. And compete above, obviously, what your belt says. I think it's really honourable, mate, and I'm actually quite excited. No, genuinely, I'm excited to see it. If you get on, mate. I need a phone call. I need videos, man. I need it all, man.
I'll drive you down.
Mate. We'll come down. If you get on, mate, give us a shout. We'll fly a plane there. We'll skydive down.
I'm still driving.
I'm still driving, mate. I'll skydive right into that nightclub, man. We're doing a match, mate. I'll announce the fight.
Yeah, I'm honestly, to be honest, I don't think I'm going to get a match on this one. I don't think it's going to happen. At the end of the day, it probably wouldn't be my best match because I've not fucking planned for it.
Yeah.
But I'm more excited to go down there and fucking watch like the absolute animals that will be fucking smashing it. You know, every time I watch Mark compete, it's like one of the most entertaining fights I've ever seen. So that will be good for me. And like every fucking fight on that card is good. So honestly, I think that I think we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, by the time this podcast comes out, it will probably already happen. So if I won,
Mark
then
McQueen W, Fraser W. I'm calling it out.
Yeah, well, that's if it happens. I don't know if it
happens.
It might
calling
not.
W's, man.
It
But
might
let's say it doesn't happen. Then you getting steaming.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
You're gonna be cheating about. You're gonna be running on the map and Mark wins.
Well, the thing is, like, I'm going up. I'm driving back, driving down with Marcos, driving back up with Marcos. So I need to, keep Marcos awake when he's driving back up. So I can't get too steaming, you know. But yeah.
No, mate.
So we're gonna need to wrap up here.
But
as Fraser, brilliant having you on, man. The first episode went a lot smoother than I thought it was going to go.
we were in the motor, man, and I was like, I'm shitting myself here, mate. But this has been brilliant, man. Having a guy like you that can talk, mate.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Talk, and obviously you've dropped some knowledge bombs on us, mate. I've actually genuinely learned quite a good bit about you today. Like, obviously I already knew some stuff, but a lot more. You know what I mean? But
thank you.
Cheers
for having me on.
Handshakes all day, man. But thank you, mate. Thanks for making this first episode good for us, man. Like, really, honestly.
Well, thanks for having me on the first one.
No, mate, absolutely. Like I said, this is why. With a few names, but I was like, you know what, Fraser. I say that Adam was like, really good shout. You know what I mean? And like I say, we got a good amount. You know what I mean?
Good amount of content. Good amount of clips.
Good amount of content. Good
Get
amount
all
of
the clips, man.
Get all the
Taylor
clips.
saying it's skydiving shite. Basically.
Taylor saying it's skydive. Aye, basically. But no, thanks for your time today, mate.
Thank
you very much, man.
Thank you.